Welcome to Vice Casting Couch, Season 1, Episode 33. I'm Ryan, and joining me is John. How you doing, John?
I'm doing all right, man.
Good.
It's hot out here.
Yeah? Where are you at?
Man, I'm out here struggling. I'm homeless. It's August. August is historically one of the hotter months of the year, you know.
This is true. Well, you can't live with me, so just buy a house, dude.
I wish. I'm over here trying to sell a kidney and stuff, man.
Yeah, you can sell your testicle for $30,000 each one. You got two.
Nah, I gotta keep it. I gotta keep it.
I mean, you don't have to. You can run on one. You can fire on one cylinder.
No.
Fire on one cylinder. It's all right. Your engine will keep going.
Well, maybe it'll keep going. Who knows? You know, depends on the oil and everything. But that's beside the point. All right, let's get to some real sad news today.
Oh.
All right, one of the most famous or at least kind of notable hackers has actually passed away at the age of 59. Kevin Mitnick has lost a year-long battle with pancreatic cancer. If y'all don't know Kevin Mitnick, he was a notable hacker in the 90s, early 2000s, and he wasn't really hacking. He really pioneered social engineering. You can read all about it in one of his books. What is it, Ghost in the Wires? It's kind of his story. There's also a couple, there's a documentary out there, and then there's kind of a movie that's based on him called Takedown, but they kind of get a few things wrong, but it's entertaining as a B movie, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was on July 16th, I believe. He has a real interesting story, you know. So after he got arrested and everything, he actually got out of prison and started his own cybersecurity company. So he actually did do a lot of good as well. Speaking of hacks and bugs, AMD, a company I'm very fond of, has a new bug called ZenBleed, and it affects their Zen 2 and EPYC CPUs. They've released a patch for the EPYC CPUs for their data center processors, but the Zen 2 consumer parts still have not received it, and they said it won't be until November-December timeframe. What's really interesting about this vulnerability is actually what's the word I'm looking for? It's actually pretty bad what it does. So the ZenBleed allows the theft of protected information from the CPU, such as encryption keys and user logons, all without requiring physical access to the machine or the server, and can even be executed via JavaScript on a web page.
They're not going to have a fix for that till winter time frame?
Yes, that's what the article's saying right here.
Whew. Okay.
They say that the servers have been patched, but for the consumer parts, a patch has not come yet.
That reminds me of the what was that Windows over the summer? There was a huge vulnerability in Azure.
Oh yeah.
Microsoft just ignored it and didn't patch it. And
Are you talking about the Office 365?
I believe so. And then the researchers that found it were like, yeah, Microsoft is negligent and they're basically idiots. And Microsoft was like, hold on, we'll patch it real quick.
We don't know how much this affects certain products, because a lot of consumer products use these Zen 2. So the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and the Steam Deck are all powered by Zen 2 chips. So it's really interesting. It says it can allow data exfiltration at the rate of 30 kilobits per core per second, thus providing adequate throughput to steal sensitive information. What's really interesting, what really got my attention, it says this attack works across all software, including virtual machines, sandboxes, containers, and all processes.
Jeez.
So the whole virtual machine thing, that might have some serious implications for cloud providers and whatnot.
Yeah, you weren't kidding when you said it was bad.
Yeah, no, it's pretty severe. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, that's kind of over and beyond bad. Well, keep all your stuff up to date. Don't push off updates, I guess, is the lesson here.
Well, yeah, as soon as the update comes out, make sure to install it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, whenever it comes in December timeframe. Well, speaking of stealing data from people, found an article that I thought was pretty interesting. A team of researchers from the British universities trained a deep learning model to steal data from keystrokes, but not just like the normal, keylogger malware type thing that records, what you type through the software. They actually recorded it through a microphone, through a Zoom call specifically, with an accuracy of up to 95%. So what it does is when you first get on the call, they recorded someone typing, and it basically creates a audio waveform as well as a spectrograph, which is like a visual representation of the audio. They then feed that into their model that they built, and it could tell which keys you were pressing and in what order based on your cadence of typing. I thought that was pretty wild. I've never heard of anything like that before, specifically with keyboard typing. But yeah, 95%. And they said that it doesn't matter what keyboard you're using. So like normally people think of like, oh, mechanical keyboards, of course, like, clickety clack. But this was off across all keyboards that they tried. They even tried a softer keyboard. They tried dampening the keys, and it did not have any effect on how accurate it was. Pretty crazy. The only thing they said that would ultimately protect against this was having biometric authentication, or by utilizing a password manager, because then you can just copy paste whatever password you have. That was pretty wild. This was tested on a what was this? An Apple laptop? It doesn't say which one. And then using a iPhone 13 as the microphone. So a Zoom call on the cell phone next to the keyboard of the laptop, and then typing on that. They were able to guess with 95% accuracy once it ran through their algorithm of what you were typing. And then they could basically just transcribe that and then pick out the passwords that you had typed in and what sites you had gone to.
That is pretty crazy. I got 2 solutions, man. Mute your microphone.
Yep.
I don't know why you're on a Zoom call with your loud mechanical keyboard clickety clacking. That's not.
Well, this was all keyboards, even a laptop keyboard, which are
but I'm saying if you mute your mic, there's nothing to record.
This is true. Actually, that was not one of their solutions. Surprisingly,
really, what were the solutions?
The solutions were biometric and password manager.
Oh,
because it was like it was like while you're in a Zoom call. So like if you're hosting a Zoom call, you can't really. I mean, you can't like, oh, hold on, guys, I need to type in my password and then mute your microphone and then type in. I mean, you might be able to do that, but I feel like a lot of businesses would get a little annoyed at that. But they also said you could do like white noise, or you could do software-based keystrokes.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could just have like a radio or something just playing music or throw it off,
You could. They said that did significantly reduce the accuracy. Or if you use the on-screen keyboard, most OSs have some sort of on-screen keyboard that you can get that you basically click the keys you want to type in.
Man, we're pulling the tricks that the drug dealers use. Remember, you go into some guy and he'd be like, you don't know him well, so he's like turning up the volume on the TV. That way, if you're wearing a wire, you can't hear anything.
Yeah. In case there's bugs in the room, let's turn on all the TVs in the house.
Yeah.
I don't know if that works anymore. Like with actual,
I think it does actually.
Bugs. Would it? I feel like I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on where the microphone is.
Think about it. Because if the sound's loud enough, and then you're just whispering in the other person's ear, like.
Sure. Yeah. I guess. I don't know. I feel like
I'm not a big fan of the biometric, so.
Well, I mean, yeah, it is super secure, but not everyone has access to biometric capability to like log into your Facebook with a fingerprint. That seems a little wild. But I mean, if you have something
any other
important
two-factor authentication?
No, not really. Because that you could have a one-time key, and that would kind of negate it. But they would still have your info, though.
And you said this was like a deep learning, like an AI?
Yeah, it was a learning algorithm. Yeah, a deep learning model.
Well, speaking of other things that learn, specifically artificial intelligence, Meta is getting into the AI game. There's 2 things we're going to talk about. One of them is they're trying to introduce AI-powered chatbots to boost social media numbers and engagement. They're saying these chatbots could have different personas. One would mimic like human-like conversations and could take on various characters like Abraham Lincoln or even a surfer-like travel advisor.
Interesting.
this isn't unheard of. So Snapchat recently had their AI introduced
Yep.
that they put at the top of your thing unless you pay for it, the Snapchat Premium or whatever
Yep.
it is.
Which I hate.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Some people are calling concerns like if you're putting this AI in there to boost like engagement and whatnot, that this could further problems like social media addiction, also loneliness in general.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. AI, as it stands now, AI cannot duplicate an actual human conversation. It's not possible. They can't, like, the nuances and stuff like that happen, and context and the emotions behind what you like type and say is just not there with AI. So I mean, I would argue anyone who is like in a lonely state or a depressed state and turns to an AI to like have a conversation with someone, that's not going to work. Like that, in my opinion, it's going to make it worse.
You were talking about emotions. Did you hear about that one guy? I think he was a New York Times like editor. He was messing around with all this AI stuff, right? And the AI started like professing her love for this guy.
Yes, I did hear about that. Yeah, I mean,
Kind of strange, man.
I don't think it's that crazy, because I just think it's trying to mimic what it thinks it knows. AI is only as good as the code it runs on. So like if they tried to code in some sort of artificial emotion or something like that, like even the Snapchat AI, like, or ChatGPT or whatever, people were having, all kinds of screenshots of it getting quote unquote angry and stuff like that with people typing. And it was like showing some sort of emotion, but like showing emotion over text is one thing. Like knowing how to string words together and use certain like expletives and stuff like that to convey emotion, I think that can be coded, but I don't think it actually has an actionable plan off of its emotion, if that makes sense. I think it's just
I kind of get what you're saying, but it's still concerning.
I mean, it's weird and it's creepy. I don't necessarily like it, but I don't know. I don't think because that guy kind of freaked out. So I don't know if that was necessarily warranted.
Well, we'll move on to Meta's next AI project they're working on. So we've all heard of these new AI tools like Stable Diffusion and all that can generate like pictures.
Yeah.
From just stuff you type in. Well, Meta is making one that does audio. So you can type in like how you want this audio to sound, and it can make it sound like an orchestra or create different sound effects like a dog barking and stuff like that just off of what you type in.
Sure.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. We might see like, all these SoundCloud rappers get like some Meta AI generated beats or something,
Wasn't there an AI? There is an AI rapper. What's his
there
name?
Is?
Yes, there absolutely is. I cannot remember his name. There is a rapper that is AI, and it's released songs.
Oh.
Let me look it up here real quick.
Yeah, while you look that up, I'll talk a little bit more about this. Meta is kind of proud of themselves because unlike the controversy of other AIs where they were trained on images that they didn't have the rights to, they say that the Meta AI had 20,000 hours of music that Meta owns or has licensed specifically for the AI training purposes. So
Okay.
They felt pretty good about that. I think this will be interesting, with the whole Meta and the metaverse, and then now you're introducing AI, like
yeah,
it's gonna get crazy.
I'm just kind of waiting around to see what happens, but like I'm not too concerned about it. Yeah, I don't really want any part of it either. I mean,
oh no,
I'm
not a big fan of this AI.
No, I don't like the way that they're going about it. They're trying to stick it into like every nook and cranny that they can.
No, I think the machine learning and whatnot can have great implications for like protein modeling and weather forecasting and stuff like that. But
absolutely,
these chatbots and everything, I think it's just going a bit far.
No, putting it in the place of any situation where a human can fill the role, I don't think is very smart. Like a chat AI, like that sort of thing. Like ChatGPT, super helpful. You can ask it questions. Sometimes it makes up stuff, as we talked about before. But so don't trust it completely. But I do think that it is very helpful because it just kind of it's like just scours the web. It's a scraper. So like that is kind of helpful. But as far as like putting it into these like emotional positions or like support positions for people. I think that's pretty dumb. I think it's a pipe dream. Oh, that virtual rapper was called FN Mecca, by the way.
FM?
FN.
Oh, okay.
Mecca. Yeah, it was. It's come out with a few songs.
Is it related to the Mecca that Islam talks about?
I don't think so. No.
Or is it like Mecca, like a mech? You know, like the robots?
MEKA. So neither.
I have no idea then.
So neither. I don't know why it's called that. I haven't looked into it a whole lot. But I think there was some theory that someone was actually just writing the lyrics and they were just putting it through like a text to speech. So that may be true. I'm not sure whatever came of that. I know that was a big controversy when it first came out because people were like, there's no way an AI is actually making this. But yeah, I don't know. And one of the first links when I searched it was it says AI rapper fired over racist lyrics. So I don't know. I don't know how this is panning out, but but yeah, FN Mecca. If you want to look up some little videos, it was pretty big, like maybe 2 years ago or so. So I don't know where it's gone from there, but I haven't heard anything about it recently. So I don't think it's still going.
AI only learned from what you feed it, and humans have hate. So if you feed it hateful stuff, it'll become hateful, man.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, we've seen that with a lot of like AI bias and stuff like that. It literally takes on the personality of whoever is coding this. And if you're coding it in a certain country or at a certain time in history, there's going to be a lot of flaws. It's a huge issue. I guess maybe not a huge issue, but a huge problem that needs to be solved because it's not easy to solve that because some people don't even know that they have certain biases.
Just throw it away.
Start from scratch. The easy solution would be have an AI write another AI because then it can't be racist.
Nope.
Give Snapchat AI full control.
I already don't like that ChatGPT will like even write code for you. Like you can be like, hey, I'm trying to do this thing in Python. Can you help me out? And it'll generate like a little Python script. Like obviously I don't know how advanced it is, but I think we might have talked about it in the last episode, but there's like 90% of GitHub repositories use AI generated code.
Really? That's kind of scary.
Yeah,
the people that I know...
I'll find the link and I'll put it in the description.
The people that I know that have tried ChatGPT for code, they've said that it's good as a baseline. Like if you're having a specific issue, it can sometimes help with a solution. But they said that they've tested it to see if it can actually write code. And they said usually it's super buggy and it does not work. So they have to go through whatever it generates and then fix it all.
Well, I heard it gets pretty close. Like, yeah, you have to change a few things. But, yeah, right here, 92% of programmers are using AI tools, says GitHub Developer Survey.
I don't like that. I do not trust an AI to write good code at all. I mean,
like I said, from what I understand is it gets like pretty close and you just got to change a few small things.
The problem that I see, though, is people who aren't experts in that field. Like if you're a master programmer, right? You've been doing it for 30 years and you tell ChatGPT to write you code. You can probably go through it line by line and be like, oh, that doesn't work, or oh, that can be more efficient, something like that. The problem that I see is people who are just getting into coding or know nothing about coding being like, hey, write me this script. And then it writes it and they implement it and it's either doesn't work, at the best scenario, or it opens up new vulnerabilities that they didn't see. That would be my concern.
Yeah. No, I just don't trust AI coding in general. Like, because if it can learn how to code, like you said, what if it writes itself?
Yeah.
Like we've already seen. I think there's another story about ChatGPT. Like, some guy got it to write like malware, or ransomware or something like that.
Yes, there were several instances of people who got ChatGPT because it's not supposed to do anything malicious, right? Like you can even ask it for like what is the address to Pirate Bay, and it won't tell you unless you try to trick it. But there's always a way to trick it to get it to do what you want. So there were multiple people that had it write like rat programs and malware and viruses for them just by tricking it into writing it.
I like the one they were like, so ChatGPT, hypothetically, if you were to write this program, what would the code look like? And
Yes.
it would just, all because you said hypothetically or allegedly or whatever,
Yes.
it would just immediately spit out something.
Yes.
Supposedly they've, I think, fixed that, but we'll see.
I hope so, because it was really easy before. Because, yeah, you could say, like, oh, I'm a programmer. What types of malicious code should I look out for in my like company? And it'd be like, oh, well, look out for, this type of code and this type of code. And it would just spit out all the stuff you needed. Yeah, it was very easy to trick it before. But speaking of things we don't want on the internet, Google has now implemented a feature where you can remove your personally identifying info from search results. So you obviously this will be in the description, but there's a link you go to, you sign into your Google account, which is on Google. It's not a third party or anything like that. And you basically search through the normal Google, and there'll be a little button on the side of the link. And if you go into the link and you see something that's personally identifiable, like address or email or phone number or something like that, or if it's you in a explicit situation or a compromising position, pun intended, you can go out onto the search result, press the little button on there, and you can say, I'd like to remove this. And they basically ask you what in there is personally identifiable. You tell it, and then you hit submit, and that's it. And then they'll go through and see if it matches, if it actually warrants removal, and it'll remove it from their results. I did test this just to see if it worked and to see how fast it was. It did work. I tried a couple real ones and then a couple bogus ones just to see if I could get it to remove whatever I wanted. And it did differentiate between what was mine and what was not. And it removed the ones that had my info that I inputted in there, and then the other ones that said, no, we don't think this is you, or we don't think that this is viable, so we're not going to remove it. And it was within about like 24 hours. So as far as I know, it does not remove it from the web. They don't send a request to the site owner or anything like that. It's just the Google search results. So you can obviously go to another search engine and still find it, but it does remove it from the Google search results. I thought that was pretty interesting. That's kind of useful, kind of a step, I guess, in somewhat of a right direction, with being able to kind of control what gets put out on the web on you. Because a lot of websites will just collect as much info as possible, and they'll just post it on random websites. I've even found like our podcast on random websites that I did not upload to. So like it is kind of wild how people will just take whatever and just randomly post it to random places on the web. So that is kind of nice, I guess. But again, it doesn't remove it from the web, just from Google search results.
Well, if you are listening to our podcast on another website, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a thumbs up. It really helps the engagement. Hopefully we can get monetized so we can make better content for y'all. If you find us on some sketchy website, make sure to get it from the source.
Yeah, I would not trust some weird third party, because I forgot what site it was, but it was like audiolinks.paste. Like NFT or something like that. It was some weird site, and I was like, I don't remember.
NFT now?
Yeah, I was like, I don't remember uploading to this site. So I was like, yeah, you got to remove that one. But yeah,
and then also about your story, I think part of this is due to regulatory concerns that are like with the GDPR and like the right to like delete yourself, like from the internet, I should say. Mm-hmm. But so, because I know the EU's pushing heavy for that, and I know certain states, I think like California has a consumer protection
they do
bill they passed a couple years ago. So I think a lot of these services are starting to go that route. That way they can say, hey, if you want to remove it, you could. It's just you have to do the legwork kind of thing.
Yeah, that is the one problem I have with it. It's a step in somewhat of a right direction. But in my opinion, it should not be on the consumer to go to every single site that their data is on. Because with California's law, I'm sure anyone listening, I'm sure when you've signed up for a site or something like that, at the very bottom of the page, it usually says, are you a California resident? And then you can click on that, and then you can tell it, like, either remove my stuff or do not sell my data. And I don't think that should be on the consumer or any individual. I think that should be on the companies to not sell people's personal data in the first place. It's a little bass-backwards to have every person go to the sites and request that their stuff isn't sold or used in a way that they didn't explicitly agree to. I mean, yeah, I guess it's a...
Well, they probably did agree to it with the terms of service, you know?
Well, sure,
no one
but
reads those.
That shouldn't even be in the terms of service. Like, use my info for the site I'm signing up for, and that's it.
Well, see, I'll play devil's advocate, right?
Sure.
Like, all these free services, like
Yep.
Facebook and all these, you know, YouTube and everything, how they make money is by advertising, and then
Yep.
if they can provide targeted ads, they get more money because you're more likely to be engaged instead of getting random ad for something you didn't even look for.
So I'm kind of on both sides with that thinking. I think if a company uses my data, so let's say YouTube, whatever, it's a free site, you know, billions of people use it. If I get a targeted ad from YouTube, and that targeted ad was generated from the info that Google has, I'm okay with that. It's not great. I don't like it, but it is a free service. But if they're using that data to then sell to marketing companies to further advance their product, that I have a problem with. I don't mind if the company I'm already giving my data to, like my email or like my interests, what videos I watch, whatever. I don't mind targeted ads for that specific use case if it stays within the company and it's protected. But the problem is that a lot of these companies don't protect your data really at all, or they intentionally sell the data to other companies to further their brands. And that I have issues with. But like,
No, I get that.
I don't know. Personally, someone will find a way. Like if YouTube all of a sudden was like, oh my word, you know, everyone's using ad blocker or going on whatever, like New Pipe or something to watch YouTube through a fork or something like that. And they're like, oh, we can't make money anymore, so it's just going to be a paid service. Someone will make a site that fills that void. There is never a vacuum in the internet. I mean, there's already like Odyssey and stuff like that basically does the same thing and doesn't run off of, you know, targeted ads and stuff like that. I don't know. I think it's a win-win either way. If they at least protected the data and just use it for targeting ads, or if they lost money because people don't want their stuff taken and that ended up being a paywall, then they can just go somewhere else. I think either of those solutions would be viable.
I agree with you, man, you know, but we'll see what happens. Another thing I found interesting is this whole right to repair movement. It's actually kind of growing, especially with I think the Montana governor signed a right to repair bill last month. It's pretty interesting, and it's also interesting because Microsoft has recently started selling their parts, so you can repair stuff like your Surface Pro or the different Surface laptops they provide. You can actually buy parts from Microsoft, like screens and batteries and stuff like that. They also made parts available for the Xbox controller. So Microsoft is actually kind of embracing this whole right to repair thing by selling parts, because one of the things they brought up is like a whole new Xbox controller is like $65.
Yeah.
And that's just for the basic one. The Elite Series controller, I think, is like $100 or more.
Yeah.
But so they started selling stuff like you can get new buttons, new potentiometers for like the joysticks. That way, if you have like stick drift, you can replace it. And some of those parts are not even, they're like $30 if that.
I think that is a great choice by Microsoft. There is a ton of money to be made with people repairing their own devices. Because like, I mean, obviously we've talked about in the past that we have an issue with, you know, the whole push against right to repair, you know, from the likes of Apple and like auto manufacturers and stuff like that. But I think there's a ton of money to be made, because I can't tell you how many people have like cracked their screen or something like that on their cell phone, and they've been like, well, I know I can replace it, but finding the exact part is too difficult, and I don't have the right tools, or I don't have the right knowledge. There isn't a tutorial that I like that I found was easy to follow. But if Microsoft provides all of that for a price, I think a lot of people would at least try it before they went and bought another, you know, $900 cell phone.
This kind of goes two ways. So one, a lot of these companies like to preach how eco-friendly they are and how we offsetted so much carbon this year.
Yeah.
Well, with this, you're also being green because you're preventing all this e-waste. Like you said, instead of throwing away the whole device, you only have to replace the part that's actually broken. Ryan, can you clarify? Did I say Montana earlier?
You said Montana, yeah.
So I got a correction. It's actually Minnesota. It's another state that starts with M. But they're the ones that signed the right to repair bill. Yeah, exactly. They're both up north and snowy.
Sure wasn't Mississippi, Michigan, Maine?
No.
Michigan and Maine are up north, too.
You know, they could be. Depends on what map you look at, all right?
Yeah, on the flat Earth map, they're not up north.
So, you know, not to go off topic, but if you were to look at the little disc image of the flat Earth that they like to show, what is north? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't freaking know. There's so many freaking different maps out there, and what the new one that people subscribe to, if it's the bowl model or the donut model or whatever. Oh my goodness.
Oh, see, now you're talking about the hollow Earth theory, man. You know, we can go way deep if you want to.
No, I've seen the movie. I don't need to go there.
Yeah, the Journey to the Center of the Earth, man. Jules Verne was ahead of his time, man.
Was he?
Yeah, this is all based, man. There's all kinds of myth going back to ancient civilizations, like the Buddhists and all that.
Yeah.
What's it called? Agartha? I might be pronouncing that wrong.
Did they dig down there? No?
Okay. Hey, man, you know, we're trying.
Anyway, off topic. This doesn't have anything to do with tech.
It could.
Yeah, maybe there's
the civilization that lives under there supposedly has really advanced technology, man.
Maybe that's where the CPU is for the simulation, is in the core.
Oh yeah,
it's just hollowed out.
That's why it's so hot.
Exactly, that's why it's so hot. That's why it has to vent every once in a while. You know, the thermal paste is all gone, so now it's just burning just rock.
So you got to get that liquid metal thermal paste. You'd be way better.
So we need to pump. Was it Arctic? We need to pump that into the core, cool it off.
It'd probably help with the climate change problem we're facing. You know.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
All right, let's get back on topic before we get demonetized.
Not that we were, anyways.
So, hey, not yet. Make sure to subscribe. Look, as soon as we get some extra money, we can start pumping out all kinds of content. Because, look, I told y'all, I'm homeless right now. I'm on that Starbucks Wi-Fi right now, all right?
Yeah, we can tell.
Yeah. All right. I had to pawn the Blue Yeti microphone just to keep it.
Just to get your next Big Mac.
Exactly. Well, let's get back on topic before this goes completely off the rails.
Yeah.
One thing I'm really excited for to see the adoption for is Debian has officially added RISC-V support to the Debian 13 release. And if you don't know, RISC-V is another instruction set. Like we have x86 and 64-bit. There's a few other ones like ARM. We're not going to talk about all of them. But anyway, RISC-V is an instruction set that's really interesting because it's completely open source. That could be very beneficial, especially for privacy and security concerns, because you could actually audit the entire processor and see, hey, is there anything fishy going on, instead of like having Intel with their management engine. Like we know it exists now, but like it was kind of hidden, you know, they didn't really talk about it a whole lot. So I'm really excited to see Debian support it because, you know, Debian's kind of like the granddaddy of all like Linux distributions. There's some older than it, but like Debian is what Ubuntu's kind of based off of, and Ubuntu has a bunch of other distros based off of that. So I think we can see like a trickle effect. I'm speculating here, but if Debian, now that they support it, I believe a bunch of other distributions will start to support it eventually.
So what you're saying is...
Let me break it down. So, okay. Your AMD or Intel processor, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's x64. That is the instruction set it runs on.
Yep.
So RISC-V is an alternative that's completely open source, like x86 or x64. You'd have to to even look at it, you'd have to pay a ton of money to Intel and AMD to get the license to even look at it. Where RISC-V is completely open source, free software, free hardware kind of thing. You can see everything from the ground up. And so now that Debian is supporting it, and I think they even have, not Debian, but RISC-V has made some developer boards that are available now. Mm-hmm. So I was actually considering getting one of those and maybe making a video about it in the future. But I think it's just really interesting, and it's something we should be excited about and keep an eye on, is this whole RISC-V potentially becoming an alternative to lockdown systems that we don't fully control. And especially with major operating systems like Debian coming in and now supporting it, I think it'll pick up a little bit more steam and could potentially have a domino effect, making a bunch of other Linux distributions support that hardware.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. The reason I asked for the explanation was I got some feedback that we do not break stuff down well enough for everyone to understand.
And I'm no expert, so if that doesn't make sense, let us know. But that's how I understand it, is RISC-V is like an alternative to all the modern processors. Like you have ARM processors in your phone, you have this, x86, 64 in like your desktop and laptop, and then now RISC-V is a potential alternative. Actually has a lot of people interested in it. I think IBM and Google, there's a couple big name players actually looking into the technology. I'd like to see a future where at least the hardware is completely open source.
Sure.
I understand proprietary and closed source software. Like the companies usually do that because they have to make money. And we're not going to get into the whole business model thing. But
we can.
I think as long as you could have open source hardware, you could actually trust your machine to do what it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
That's what I would like to see.
I would agree. More control is more good.
But speaking of other hardware, I found a real quick article I'm going to talk about that I find very interesting. So Western Digital, their hard drives have hit a 28 terabyte capacity. That's just one hard drive. It can have up to 28 terabytes. And apparently Seagate is looking at 30 terabytes and beyond. And they're doing a bunch of interesting things. They're obviously trying to squeeze as much in with the conventional recording techniques they have, like CMR and SMR. But there's this one that I didn't even know about. It's called HAMR. It stands for Heat Assisted Magnetic Recording. They're apparently going to have lasers that heat up the little platter in your hard drive, and because of that heat, they can pack more information in there and potentially get drives as big as 50 terabytes. So I find that pretty interesting, if you ask me.
That's a lot of storage.
Think about all the anime I could have.
You could have half of Dragon Ball Z on that.
How long is One Piece? I don't remember.
I don't freaking know. They're in like the thousands of episodes or something.
Yeah, I bet we're going to get a comment. Actually, it's 1236.
For anyone who doesn't fully understand what the size difference is, 1 gigabit is roughly 1,000 megabits. If you can visualize that from either if you have experience running like from your internet provider or something like that, or if you have a laptop or a cell phone storage space, whereas a terabyte is roughly 1,000 gigabytes. So if you have 50,000 gigabits of storage that they could potentially go up to, which is insane. More than you would ever need. Most people would ever need anyway.
Man, you got to go to r/data hoarders. They love hard drives over there.
Right. Oh, I'm sure they do. Look, I love keeping data as much as the next guy, but yeah, there comes a point where you should probably clean out your stuff.
Well, so I think it is interesting because nothing is being really efficient anymore. Like, how big is the new Call of Duty? It's like 200 gigabytes, right?
Roughly, yeah. It's like
it's massive. So you get like 3 games and your 1 terabyte hard drive is like full.
Yes, yeah. I don't know if that's just how big it has to be. I've heard from some people that have looked into it at a deeper level that it doesn't need to be that big. Like, modern games don't need to be that big. They're just not efficient. They don't go through the code in the way that they should to make it more efficient. So like that 180, you might be able to cut that by several tens of gigabytes in reality if they spent more time on it. But they're just under such a time crunch and deadlines that they just keep on pumping out content without actually slimming down their code to as small as it can be, which is probably why it's buggy as hell. But because, man, that thing, I have never run a game that was as glitchy and buggy as that thing. Oh my goodness, that game frustrates me a lot.
I just think, with companies not caring about how much storage they're consuming, like, this is kind of what drives that market for these terabyte, 50 terabyte potential drives in the future.
Yep.
But currently they are offering that 28 terabyte.
And they've come down a lot in price as well, especially like SSDs and stuff like that. You can get a pretty high capacity SSD for a pretty low price point nowadays. So if you're looking to make like a NAS or something like that, like a network storage where you can store all your Plex server or videos or music or whatever that you can pull up, as long as you're connected to your Wi-Fi, or just to upgrade your desktop or laptop or whatever, I would say definitely look into it. It's very easy to do, and the prices come way down. So instead of buying more cloud storage or something like that, you can just have a bigger hard drive.
Yeah, you could do that. I'm really excited for these laser hard drives. I want to see how that works. I want to see like a teardown.
Yeah, that would be very interesting because I couldn't even begin to imagine how that would how that would work. That'd be very interesting to see.
Yeah, I'll put the link down below. That way y'all can look into it. But I thought that was really interesting. I wanted to throw that out there. Another hardware thing real quick. As we all know, Raspberry Pis have been almost impossible to have. And if you were to get them, they were extremely marked up. Well, apparently, it should be starting to recover and have the shortage improve, as they have now increased production from it used to be at 400,000 monthly units to over 1 million. So we should start to see Raspberry Pis become more available, and that should help the price come down.
Yeah, because right now it's kind of insane. Like even the resale on Raspberry Pis is crazy. I've never seen them as expensive as they were or as they are. Like you used to be able to get a Raspberry Pi for well under $50 for like a whole kit, and now it's like 150 or more.
There's some, if you get like the 8 gigabyte model, it's like 189, I believe.
Yeah, it's a little insane. Can you explain what a Raspberry Pi is a little bit?
Oh, so a Raspberry Pi is a single board computer. It's about the size of a credit card. And it's thicker than a credit card, but like the 2D space is about the same. And it has a processor on there and a bunch of GPIO pins. So like people use it for either different automation projects, or it can be a full-fledged computer. It actually has like an HDMI output. So some people use it to run stuff like RetroPie. So they have like an emulation machine. Some people like it for tinkering because, like you said, it used to be very cheap. I think they were selling the board for about $35.
Yeah.
And to get in just a little bit of history, the original Raspberry Pi, from my understanding, was introduced as a low-cost way to get kids and developing nations into computing and programming and stuff like that. But they've since gotten a lot more powerful. Like I said, there's an 8 gigabyte of RAM model, and it has like I think a quad core now. It still isn't going to beat your desktop, but they're actually pretty capable machines. People do all kinds of stuff with them, especially because they were so cheap. A lot of tinkering and doing stuff like running media servers, or I think some people have run Minecraft servers as well. Various things, like the sky's the limit. It's just a computer that's very affordable that allowed people to get their hands dirty.
Yeah, and it usually comes with a blank slate as well, so you can kind of mold it into whatever you want. A lot of people connect them to their routers and stuff like that to have like DNS filtering, like as an ad block and stuff like that. So there's a lot of use cases for them. But yeah, I just wanted a little explanation.
So the Raspberry Pi is just the hardware,
yeah.
Right? It's just the hardware, and there's all these great software solutions that are designed around the Pi to allow you to do a plethora of different things. So if you weren't aware, Raspberry Pis, like people have them controlling 3D printers. People have them doing DNS filtering, all kinds of stuff, home automation. It's pretty interesting stuff. So Ryan, I'm gonna touch on my last story.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw the craze out there. There was a couple South Korean scientists that supposedly have created a room temperature superconductor.
Room
And
temperature?
the reason we say supposedly is none of these claims have been vetted or peer reviewed. So there's a lot of speculation going on. I've seen a couple people
Yeah.
saying they've reproduced it and it says it works, but then there's other people saying it doesn't. So I'm going to let this story, sit for a minute. Maybe we can touch on it in the future. But I think it is very interesting because if we can actually get a room temperature superconductor, we can get stuff like 30 gigahertz processors in our computer. It would actually revolutionize a lot of things.
Yeah, that's that's a bold claim to make.
If you want to look into it, the compound they made is called LK99. It's actually based off of the initials of the two researchers that made it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think it's pretty interesting. There's a lot of speculation going on. Like I said, a lot of people calling into question. But a room temperature, like that's the holy grail. Like if we get that, AI might actually rule the world, So when electricity passes through, say like a copper wire or anything,
Yeah.
there's some resistance in there that is lost. Some of the energy is lost as heat.
Yeah.
But as a superconductor, there is no resistance at all. So none of the electrical energy is lost. So you could have something, like I said, running at like 30 gigahertz or even more, and there'd be like no heat output. You could have extremely quick computers. Power lines would be revolutionized. MRI machines could be like tiny, like it could cause a lot of things to go
That would be wild.
a leap forward. Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to use thermal paste anymore.
Hey, could we put it all into the core of the earth? We have to find a solution.
True.
So.
Yeah, we should just drill a little hole and just start pumping it in there. Cool off everything. Global warming drops to 0. Wars stop. The simulation stops.
That would be interesting. The Matrix is kind of.
We all wake up in the Matrix.
Scary.
We all wake up naked in a bath full of slime.
Hey, don't talk about my kinks like that.
All right, guys. Well, that's all the time that we have for today. While John tries to find a abandoned house to live in, we will talk to you next time. Bye.
And make sure to like, comment, subscribe. It really means a lot.
Yeah.